Hello everyone and welcome back to The Favorite Comics, and this week we are diving back into the world of independent comic books as we look at the hit series from legendary creator Ed Brubaker, and that of course is Velvet. Now, I don't think a lot of people know every single book that Ed Brubaker's made. You probably know him best for his work on Captain America. He's the one who gave us the Winter Soldier arc. That was the best thing that ever happened to that character. But Ed Brubaker is a huge fan of a lot of things. One of them, spy thrillers, espionage stuff. He likes pulpy noir feeling stories. And he likes his period pieces. Like, I always get excited when he announces a new book he's working on with anybody, any talent or writer or artist he's worked with before, and they're always doing another project. I love it a lot. But something about Velvet just became my favorite book of his, and it's one I go back to a lot in terms of stuff he's worked on, and just in terms of comic books. I think it is completely original in its portrayal of the world, but it also feels so familiar, so satisfying, so like things we've seen before, but spins it on its head just enough where you're like, oh, I've never read a concept like this before. And even if I have, there's something that's just so unique about the experience of this one. And I think a lot of that has to do with the artworks of Steve Epting. And his artwork, man, is just beyond extraordinary. There's something so unique and visceral and cool and just so tone-fitting to what this world's trying to be. It's the 70s. It is a spy espionage thriller set in the 70s, and it looks like it feels like it. The characters all have that right angle and the right development to feel like they are of that time period, and I love it. And that's something Brubaker is great at doing, just making you feel like you are in that time period. No matter what the time period is, he really makes you feel like you're there. And when it comes to Velvet, it is such a cool experience to read. So for those of you who don't know, and you're probably watching this video being like, oh, I don't know who Velvet is or what this world is. This is a 15-issue series from Brubaker. There are 3 trade paperbacks. There's 1 deluxe edition. You can pick it all up. It's worth your time. The story is about Velvet Templeton. Isn't that a great name? It's an incredibly cool name. We'll get back to that in a bit, though. Velvet Templeton is the secretary for this spy agency in the 70s, and after something happens or one of their agents gets killed, it looks like Velvet was responsible for their death. And now she has to go on the run from her agency and prove her innocence, working with some old allies, good and bad. And you're like, huh, that's very familiar in the tone that we've seen before in other storylines, kind of. But the way it goes about itself is so cool. Velvet is such a fun lead because it could go in one of 2 ways for her. It's either like, she's too over the top and too familiar in the way of like a Bond girl would be. But Velvet has such a unique and cool experience about her where there's like this sense of experience, but also this sense of she's an older woman now. She doesn't have the capabilities she has before. So just having her in this world, while very familiar and something that she is used to doing, there's this extra layer that it doesn't go as well as she wants it to because of who she is now, and her experience, well, kind of faded, is still there, but she's just older and can't do the things she used to, which is something I'm a huge sucker for. I love a story that's about like this older person trying to come back into the world they left, or like their last hurrah there. But when it's a character like Velvet Templeton, man, is it fun. She is so cool and just interesting. I love her design. I love the way she uses the gadgets and the tech around her just to like free herself and escape from these scenarios. It's just such a cool experience. It is Brubaker doing James Bond. That's pretty much what it is. It feels like a James Bond. It definitely feels like a 70s James Bond too, where it's like, all right, here's the high stakes, here's the cool characters, they all have unique and interesting names. Here's our lead character using all these weird and interesting gadgets, teaming up with people not connected to MI6 or anything, just doing something fun. That's what this world feels like, and that is exactly what you get from this. If James Bond was a woman, there's Velvet Templeton. That is so cool. I think that's fun, because James Bond is a category of film that I don't think gets explored enough. And when I say category of film, or even story, it's that high-action, energetic spy thriller that doesn't take itself too seriously, but also knows exactly what it's trying to be. Velvet is a very serious story, but it's also not trying to like be over the top about it. You know this is a cool, high thriller stakes world, you know? People are sleeping with each other, they're having sex, they're being flirty, they're being cute about things, they're being coy about certain things. That is the energy you're getting in here, just like in James Bond, and that's such a cool thing to see. We don't get that a lot. I enjoy seeing it in something other than the 007 franchise, and that's something I think is really cool about Velvet. Now, like I said, it's only 15 issues. It's not a big commitment, but what it does in those 15 issues, it gives you everything you'd want from a spy story. There's betrayal, there's heartbreak, there's cool gadgets, there's cool fighting, there's cool scenes where you go to like high-end society things in cool dresses and you're like kicking down some enemies and doing stuff. You're looking cool, you're looking suave, and you're having fun doing it. And the artwork really benefits that. I said Steve Epting's a great artist earlier, but I just want to commemorate him for focusing on the thing that makes this cool. It's the coloring that really adds an extra layer to it. It's like dark, but also very elegant in its portrayal, which I really enjoy. There should always be this certain elegance to like spy thrillers, in my opinion, where it's like this world's supposed to look vibrant and colorful and kind of mysterious in that portrayal too. So you want to like have the people see like the allure or desire to be a part of that. And this book does a great job at doing that. I think it's really cool, really fun stuff to see. It's just such an interesting book. It's not one I'm going to spoil for you guys because I think it's out of everything on my list so far, I'd imagine this is the one that not a lot of people have went out and looked at or have read because it's another Brubaker book. He's done so many of these types of books, but when it comes to Velvet, there's just something very distinctly Brubaker, but also very timeless about it. It is a fantastical female lead that you've seen before, but she is so different in that kind of style. It's very familiar, but you're like, I have never seen a woman like Velvet Templeton on screen. I've never seen her in comics like this before. This older woman who's still this action hero, which is still really cool to see. The world's colorful and beautiful, something you're familiar to seeing, but the way that Brubaker tells his story, it's unique and different enough where you're not going to be disappointed in what you're seeing. I think that is really cool. I love books like this where it's just, here's a new world for you to explore. You kind of get the idea of who these characters are. Here's the dick, here's the head of the agency, here's our main character, here's her ex-lover, or blah, blah, blah. Here's the character that's not connected to the agency that she's going to work with. But when you go about it in a way that's unique and fun, but still feels familiar, that's where you get some good shit out of. I really like that energy a lot, and I just love Velvet for that so much. There's something about this book. I keep saying it, but I just go back to it all the time. It has that timeless feel that I enjoy in my storytelling, and I just love seeing the action and the visceral nature of the characters' reactions to each other, the world they're in, the world they're setting up. It's so unique and different that I think it's going to make a lot of people happy. And besides, if you're looking for that extra kind of feel that you haven't really got in more contemporary modern comic books, Velvet brings you back to an era that is just so brilliantly cool and suave and sexy that you cannot be disappointed in it, and you're going to enjoy every second that you see this character interacting in this world. Like I said too, it is 3 trade paperbacks. They're very easy to find, very easy to access, and I recommend this book to everyone just because it's such a fun experience. You're going to get some great artwork with a great team. If you haven't read that Winter Soldier book, you should. Then you go to this one, you see why he did this book, you see why Brubaker stays in his lane and can do so many unique and interesting things while in that lane. It's such a cool thing to see. But Velvet just holds the cake of being the best James Bond in modern times that has a very great lead character in a more mature setting for her, and I think that is something that's very fantastical and cool and unique to see in this world. So, Velvet is one of my favorite comic books. It is my favorite Brubaker comic book. It is one of my favorite independent comic books, and it is damn well worth your time. Please check it out. I want this book to succeed because the more people that buy these trades now, the more chance we have of getting this developed into a live-action project, which is exactly what I want to see done for Velvet. And thank you guys so much for watching this rendition of The Favorite Comics. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching this, or listening to this, I should say, on the podcast feed, why don't you give us a rating there, because we want more ratings on that thing. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.